Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to separate out individual labels from a Photoshop file so that they can be uploaded to Roll20 as individual files. So I have here a sample file. This is an ideal case in which we have all of the map art on one layer, and we have all of the labels on their own individual layers already separated out. You can see the one in the upper left there I'm turning on and off. In this case, the solution is simple. If you have all of your labels individually, you can simply go to Export and Layers to Files. And what this is going to do is this is going to take each of those visible layers and it's going to export it to its individual file. I am going to choose to put them in their own file called Labels, and they will be saved as a PNG 24 so that we can keep the transparency, and we'll go ahead and run. And what that is going to do is that is going to go through, and I'll show you in the Finder that our files are mystically appearing. Now I'm going to jump into the future here so that you don't have to wait, because this can take several minutes. And you can see the dialog box there that tells us that export to layers to files was successful. And if we look back in the Finder, we can see that all of our labels are in individual files. Now, that's an ideal case. What do you do if you have a case where I'm going to go ahead and collapse all of these labels into a single layer? So now we have all of our labels on one layer, and this is something that you will sometimes get. What you need to do is you need to separate each individual label onto its own layer, and I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do that. What we want to do is we want to hide our base layer so that we're only looking at the pixels for the label. We want to make sure that we're on our label layer. We're going to do a special kind of copy and paste. We're going to do an ordinary copy, and then we're going to do a paste special, paste in place. And what that does is it takes every pixel that we copied, and it is going to put it on its own layer exactly where we started. And we can do that for each of these in turn. Copy, paste in place, and now we have that label on its own layer. As you can tell, there are two problems here. One, it takes an awful lot of time to go back to that edit menu all the time. And two, there are an awful lot of labels to go through. And it's hard to tell which ones you've done and which ones you haven't. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete those layers. And I'm going to do a little trick that will show you which ones you have done and which ones you haven't. We're going to apply a layer style here. We're going to give this a color overlay. We'll make it a bright red. We're going to click OK. Now, all the labels that we have not processed are showing in red. And if we go ahead and we select, and now we go to Copy and Paste Special, Paste in Place, you can see that we have processed this one. The original label is, or the original layer is still undisturbed, but now we have that label isolated. And you can do that for each one in turn. Copy. Oops, have to make sure you're on the original layer. Go to Copy, and then Edit, Paste Special, Paste in Place. And again, it's going to take a while. So what I would suggest doing is learning how to use Photoshop Actions and put those actions in, or put those steps into their own individual action. I've got one here I've called Stamp Labels for Roll20. I've put it on my F2 key. And all it does is it copies, it pastes in place, and then it selects the original layer. So now, if I go through, and let's zoom in here a bit, I can quickly make sure I'm on the labels layer to begin with, copy, press my F2 key, and I can just do that over and over again because it is always going to reselect my original layer, and I can quickly go through an entire file. The last thing I want to show you is what happens if they have not provided you with the labels. Frequently, you will have a case where you have a base layer map and the labels were applied in InDesign and then output to a PDF. So the only copy you have of the labels is a PDF. There are two things you can do. Firstly, you can meticulously go through and generate each label by hand in your Photoshop file. As you can imagine, this would take a long time. Or if you have a copy of Acrobat Pro and Adobe Illustrator, you can open that page from the PDF in Illustrator, select just the labels, paste them into Photoshop, and you can resize them, and you can work from that copy there. If you do not have a copy, and if you have contacted a Roll20 producer and they cannot get you a layered file, and the only option you have is to extract them from the PDF, please post on Slack and see if there is somebody who can do that task for you. It doesn't take long, and it will save you a lot of time in the end. The last thing I want to show you is the worst case scenario in which, let's go ahead and get rid of that effect, delete, clear that layer style. The worst case scenario is a file in which everything is baked in. It's all on one layer. Again, if a producer cannot find you a layered file, what you're going to have to do is you are going to have to paint these out. Well, first of all, I'd make a copy of the layer. Never destroy data if you have to. I would suggest selecting each layer and going to Fill, choosing Content Aware, and it will do its best to try and figure out what pixels were behind. The problem with this is if it is on a background that is fairly uniform, this works great. If there are details behind it, this is not going to work well at all. Fill, Content Aware, and you will see it just makes garbage pixels in there. Worst case scenario, you will have to edit the entire layer, pull the labels off, and generate your own labels from scratch. Once you have all of your labels in their own individual files, I will show you in another video how to assemble those on Roll20. Thank you.